The last time we sailed in the Haven on the NCL Getaway is in 2020, right before the pandemic.
Our latest cruise on the Getaway took place 5 years later, and a lot has changed in the cruising world in the past 5 years. So how does the NCL Haven experience stack up in 2025?
Hi, I'm Jan.
And I'm Tracy, and we completed a 7-day Western Caribbean cruise in the Haven on the NCL Getaway.
Now, we believe that cruising is a personal experience, and two people can have different perspectives even on the very same cruise.
So these are our observations of our 1-week Western Caribbean cruise on one of NCL's Breakaway-class ships, the Getaway, inside the Haven.
Now, we're going to be looking at some specific categories, and then what we're going to do is we're going to give you the top 3 things we like most about the NCL Getaway, and then the 3 things that we thought that NCL could have done better.
So the categories we're going to be looking at is the embarkation, the ship, our cabin, the NCL Haven experience, service, food, and entertainment.
Now, we sailed out of New Orleans and had a great embarkation process. We parked at the Julia Street Cruise Terminal, which offers a complimentary shuttle, which was nice. And quite frankly, this was one of the fastest embarkations we have had this year. From the time that the shuttle dropped us off at the curb till the time we were on the ship was just 17 minutes. Quite frankly, that made it faster than most of the small luxury lines that we have sailed. By the way, that's probably largely due to the fact that we're Haven guests. We'll talk about some of the other benefits you get when you're in the Haven.
And did we mention that this cruise took place during a school break? That meant we were sailing at over 100% capacity with more than 4,300 passengers and at least 750 kids. It was a lot of kids on this ship.
Now, unlike our last cruise on the NCL Escape where we had a balcony room, we decided to book a suite in the luxurious Haven area. The Haven is the NCL ship-in-a-ship concept, much like MSC's Yacht Club.
So let's start with the general impressions of the NCL Getaway.
So yeah, first of all, the Getaway is beautiful. NCL ships always have beautiful ships, and just like the Escape, they have the really wonderful waterfront. The waterfront is that promenade deck that on deck 8 that goes all the way around the ship. It has really a lot of nice places to be able to sit and relax. Additionally, there are bars to get drinks, and there's even restaurants which you can grab a bite to eat. Additionally, we really enjoyed the atrium just like we did on the NCL Escape.
Unfortunately, it was very obvious this ship was sailing at over 100% capacity. It was just so busy, especially when you got around the pool and the buffet. It was just really, really crowded.
Yeah, plus if you add the fact that we had cold weather during our 2 sea days, quite frankly, that meant everyone came inside and really became really packed.
And in the main pool area, we noticed there were lots of kids in the jacuzzis. Although we did notice that there was some designated adults only areas for jacuzzis, lots of kids in the jacuzzis.
And one of the things we don't like about this design of the ship, quite frankly, is where the casino is and the fact that it is a smoking casino. That meant anytime you had to go through the casino or even those areas around the casino, you would always have the cigarette smoke, which we don't necessarily like. In fact, there is actually an Asian or a noodle restaurant we wanted to go to, but it is pretty much right adjacent to the casino, and quite frankly, the cigarette just permeated it, and we just decided not to eat there at all, specifically because of this.
However, all of our troubles melted away inside the Haven and in our penthouse Courtyard suite. It was wonderful. So the Haven itself, the space is really well laid out. It's located at the front of the ships, and it goes from decks 16 and 19. And this is one of those places that the Haven is key card access only. So only Haven guests can access this area. So it includes a lounge area with a bar, has a private restaurant just for Haven guests, and a courtyard with a private pool for Haven guests. Also, a big bonus they had was there's a co-ed sauna inside the Haven courtyard area that we used pretty much every day.
Now, in the Haven, we had a courtyard veranda suite located on deck 16, which is right across from the Haven courtyard and the pool.
Now, our suite itself had plenty of closet space, and we had a king-size bed with a mattress topper, so it was really, really comfortable. We had a nice-sized bathroom with a separate toilet and shower area, and we had a really nice balcony. And the nice thing about the balcony was, unlike the regular cabins that are not within the Haven, we had really nice upgraded outdoor furnishings.
Now, nothing's really perfect, and of course, even with this great room, there were a couple of shortfalls. And the first one that we noted is the lack or a minimal number of electrical outlets. There's only 2 USBs and only 3 outlets in the entire room, which is unfortunate. Also, Tracy and I like whenever we have the opportunity to have free room service, which we did. The problem is on the balcony is the table is way too small to be able to enjoy breakfast dining al fresco. Now, unlike the cabins outside of the the Haven, however, we did receive twice-a-day cleaning service, and we even still had town animals.
And they even decorated our room for my birthday. But that was just one of the extra things that made you feel special in the Haven. So the Haven bar, the restaurant, and the concierge staff, I think, provided exceptional service. I think it was on par or better than the service that we've experienced on many premium and luxury lines. And I'm not sure why we're so surprised by this, because this is what you're supposed to expect when you opt for a concierge level class of service.
Yeah, quite frankly, the only place in the Haven that we felt the service was lacking actually was around the Courtyard pool. Quite frankly, the Courtyard pool service was just not very good. Quite frankly, was easier for us to get out of the pool or get off our lounge or get out of the hot tub, walk into the lounge to be able to flag down a waiter, as opposed to, well, have the waiters come in and get us something while we were actually relaxing. Quite frankly, the Courtyard attendants were pretty much missing in action.
I definitely want to give a shout out to our concierge team, specifically Sonia and Marianne. We felt that they provided Haven guests direct access and expediting to shows, and that was essential for getting into fully booked shows, and we'll discuss that later in the review.
And the good things that continued with our getaway cruise, especially in the food category. Now, whenever Tracey and I sail on Norwegian, the two places we really always want to go eat, one is Le Bistro, which is a French specialty restaurant. We absolutely love it. And then there is Cagney's, which is a steak food restaurant. Quite frankly, both the steakhouse and Le Bistro, Cagney's and Le Bistro, were absolutely fantastic with fantastic food and really good attentive service.
Unfortunately, we did try a third specialty restaurant, and that was Ocean Blue. And honestly, it just did not deliver. It just wasn't as good as the other two restaurants. The food was just mediocre at best, and the service was kind of lackluster.
But then there is the Haven's private restaurant. This is a restaurant just for Haven guests, which quite frankly was better than all three of these specialty restaurants we tried. Quite frankly, when you look at the food, you look at the service, you're looking at the ambiance that you have, quite frankly, everything in that restaurant was firing on all four cylinders. However, the only thing that you should know is the Haven restaurant is a fixed menu. It does not have a rotating menu. And on a 7-day cruise, we believe it has plenty of options, at least for us. However, if you're on a longer cruise, quite frankly, this might start feeling redundant after a while.
Although the food was so good, especially the prime rib, I know Jan would be happy to eat the prime rib at the Haven every night if he could.
Yeah, and I know that Tracey is absolutely correct.
So the only complimentary food venue we went to outside of the Haven was the Oceans, and that's kind of their pub food. The food was okay, although this was a full ship, so it was incredibly busy. We waited 20 to 25 minutes for a table, and this was well after the lunch hour and way too early for dinner, so it was just busy. I mean, just it was very busy.
Now, the good news is there's a lot of other really good things to make up for some of these little minor things. One of those is, quite frankly, is the entertainment. On our sailing, we actually enjoyed a couple of shows in the theater. The first is the $1 Million Quartet. We've seen that before several years ago. It's still delivered. And then there is one of our very favorites is Rumors, which is the tribute to Fleetwood Mac.
So we have watched the Rumors show on several NCL ships. We saw it on the Escape and we saw it on the Prima. And both times they took place in the Sid Norman's poorhouse, which made it a standing room only, and you had to stand in line to even get a chance to go in there. On the Getaway, however, this show took place in the theater, and they showed it 2 times in the same night, and both times it was fully packed.
Now, with NCL dropping down to only one Broadway-style production, and we know that they're going to more in-house entertainment, it was no surprise to us that Rumors playing in the theater was incredibly popular. The good news is, because we were Haven guests, we had our own dedicated space in the theater that actually was pretty close up to the stage, and we also had an escort from the concierge of the Haven taking us down, so there was no waiting. It was one of the easiest times for us to be able to see any show, especially compared to the almost hour-long waits in standing room only, which we would have for our previous viewings of Rumors.
Now, outside of the production shows, there was the casino, which we did not go to, and there was Spice H2O, which is the adults-only complimentary pool area, but both of them were packed, so we kind of limited our entertainment when we were on the Getaway just to the daily trivia in the atrium.
And speaking of entertainment, the one thing we did notice within the Haven was there was no evening entertainment in the Haven Haven Lounge. And this kind of surprised us because this is different from the other ship-in-the-ship venue we've enjoyed on another line.
So that's our thoughts regarding the ship, our cabin, the Haven experience, the food, the service, and the entertainment.
Now for the 3 things we enjoyed most and the 3 things that we thought that the Getaway could have done a bit better.
So we'll start with the things that we wish that could have gone a little bit better. And the first one being is, after we had made the big decision to do a splurge and stay in the Haven, we just felt that there was just too much nickel and diming and just constant upselling all throughout the ship.
Yeah, for example, despite paying for everything you get with the Haven, quite frankly, you still do have to pay for a thermal spa. Quite frankly, you don't get any decent internet. Yes, with your More at Sea, you do get 150 minutes of internet, and despite the fact that NCL says it's the fastest at sea, it isn't, only like 3 megabits per second, which was very, very slow. In fact, the slowest I've had at sea. And even the bottled water in your room, there was an extra fee for all these things, which quite frankly are free in the other ship-in-the-ship concept that we've sailed on another line.
And I guess the second issue was that this cruise and this sailing was at over 100% capacity. And if you were not inside the Haven, and I think it would have been a lot harder to really enjoy it and take advantage of it, because there really wasn't any place around the pool. The buffets were always crowded and just the venues were packed.
And third, although the food in the Haven was absolutely exceptional, our dinner in the Ocean Blue restaurant, quite frankly, was not up to par, especially being a specialty restaurant. It was crowded, it was noisy, the service was slow, and the food, quite frankly, was underwhelming, especially when we compared that to another NCL seafood restaurant, which we absolutely loved, which was the Palomar on the NCL Prima. So, all right, so enough with the downs. What were the 3 things we thought were most outstanding on this cruise?
I'd have to say, for starters, it has to be the overall Haven experience. It's just really nice to be treated extra special, and that includes being escorted onto the ship, having your own private sanctuary from the rest of a very, very crowded ship, having designated seating areas in the theater, and having that extra special personal service we received. That is what the Haven is all about, that feeling of exclusivity.
Yeah, now the second really big thumbs up was the food in the Haven restaurant. Yes, it's not a revolving menu, but quite frankly, Tracey and I didn't have any problems with it because we knew everything that was on that menu was very good, and I would not have a problem eating any of those things a couple times a week. Now, we truly believe that food from the Haven really rivals every small luxury and even most ultra luxury cruise experiences that we've been able to enjoy.
And the last thing that we thought that was fantastic was NCL's entertainment. They do a great job. The $1 Million Quartet was fantastic, and we were thrilled to see that they had moved one of our favorite shows at sea's, Rumors, to the main theater, so a lot more people could enjoy it.
And once again, what's nice is you have designated seats just for Haven guests, so there was no waiting whatsoever. All right, so the overall this cruise was an exceptional cruise, and we were thrilled that we had this opportunity.
However, not every cruise is for every person, so who do we think that this cruise is for?
Well, I'm going to start by talking about who we think this is not going to be best for. If you are someone who doesn't need the trappings of the big ship, the water slides, the big casinos, the big production shows, you just want a really nice luxury, quite frankly, don't book a big ship like the NCL Getaway.
Although this was one of the cheapest Haven cruises we could find, it was by no means cheap. Booking in the Haven certainly comes with a pretty steep price point. For example, the 2 of us on a good deal, we paid nearly $950 for the 2 of us per day for sailing.
Yeah, no, you have to understand that for that rate per day, you pretty easily could book a small luxury cruise, or maybe even to be able to find a good deal on an ultra luxury cruise line. This means that if you did that, that means that you would have all the great food, the excellent service, and the special attention of an entire ship, not just part of it.
Although, if you really do want all those things that you get on the big ship, the nightlife, the large casinos, and all the entertainment,
as well as the benefits that the Haven provides, this is a perfect option for you.
But the other group of cruisers we really think this is great for is for families who want this level of exclusivity for the adults and all the fun and the trappings for your children.
Yeah, in fact, that's what we did when our kids were younger and they were in the house. We would book a Haven cruise precisely because we think it's a great option for both parents who want great service and that relaxation, and children who just want to have fun. All right, so that's our review of the 7-day Caribbean cruise on the NCL Getaways Haven. Watch this video for another review, and as always, keep on traveling.